friends, welcome to The Bite. My name is Jackie. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my Baklava Cinnamon Rolls or Baklava Cinnamon Rolls. I've been posting about these a lot on my Instagram because I have been testing them quite a bit. So much that instead of doing Baklava Cinnamon Rolls, I was just testing the dough, so I would just make regular cinnamon rolls. And so many people were like, where does all this stuff go? How many times are you going to be eating cinnamon rolls? My husband actually would take them to work with him, so thank God we were not stuffing our face with cinnamon rolls every single time I made them. But they're so good. I do have a traditional baklava video on my YouTube channel and on my blog, which is where all my recipes are, including this one. So you can check that out there. But this is kind of like another rendition and like a fluffier, just delicious version. Let me show you what you're gonna need because it's really simple and this dough comes together seamlessly. So I have flour and a little bit of salt in here, some melted butter, an egg, yeast and sugar, and some warm milk and water in here. I am going to be using my stand mixer with a dough hook attachment, but you could totally do this by hand and knead it out. That works just as well. I am going to be kneading it a little bit after I do use the dough hook in my stand mixer. But first thing you want to do is let your yeast proof. So I'm using rapid rise yeast. You don't need to let it proof for as long. And you don't even need to let the dough rise as long either. But if you're using regular yeast, then you will need to let it sit for about 5 minutes until you see the top of the liquid that you put the yeast in. Once you see it start bubbling, then you know it's ready. You want your liquid to be about 115 degrees. And it's funny because whenever I would make dough with my mom, she would just use her finger and she would know if it was right or not. But the real measurement of the degree of measurement is about 115 degrees. Any hotter, it can kill the yeast, and any cooler, it won't activate. So it needs to be just right. So once this is ready to go, I will meet you at the stand mixer and we can get the dough going. So I have all my dough ingredients here. We're ready to start making the dough. The yeast, as you can see, has puffed up beautifully, and this is how you know it's ready to go. So I'm gonna start by adding this straight into my stand mixer. And it does have my dough hook attachment on right now, but again, you can do this by hand. And I just wanna make sure I get this all out of here. You wanna make sure you get all that sugar from the bottom as well. Then I'm just gonna crack an egg right in here and add in my melted butter. So first thing I want to do is kind of get these going a little bit, make sure that egg is broken and get the yeast and the sugar mixed in with all the rest of the wet ingredients. So I'm gonna lock it and get it going. So that looks good. And now I'm going to add in half of this flour, let it incorporate just about halfway until I add the second half of the flour. All the measurements, as usual, are going to be on my blog, so you can always find them there. That's the first link in the description box down below. So I added about half of the flour and the salt mixture. Those were already combined in here. And I'm going to get this going. Once I see that it's starting to incorporate, then I'll add the second half. Okay, and that just takes a couple seconds. And the reason I do it in batches is so that it does not clump up the flour, and I find that it just gives you a better batter when you do them half and half like that. So you want to scrape down the edges, make sure all that flour is going into the dough mixture, and add the rest of the flour right in. And then you're gonna let this mix for about 4 to 5 minutes or until it's combined and it's nice and smooth. So I had my dough mixing for a few minutes and it's ready. It's nice and smooth, but it's still quite sticky, and that is a good thing because I found after making this several times that when it's sticky like this, because we are going to continue kneading it a little bit right now, that when it's sticky like this, it actually yields a really soft dough. So I just want to get as much of this off as I can and set this aside. I'm going to lightly flour my working surface because I want to knead this a little bit. and make it a nice smooth ball that we can stick in here and let it rise. So I'm just using a spatula, and I'm gonna turn this right out onto my working surface. So you can see just based on the touch how soft it is, and this is a good sign. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of dough, or a little bit of flour on top, and I want to just knead this a little bit and bring it together in the shape of a ball. And then I will lightly grease a clean bowl. You can also do it in this bowl too, but I just tend to do it in a new bowl. And man, this is like, I'm really proud of this dough. I worked real hard on this baby, and I can't wait for you guys to try it. But anyways, I use a non-flavored oil, so you don't want to use like olive oil here, just some vegetable oil, a little bit, like 2 tablespoons. And that way the dough doesn't develop like a skin, kind of like a film on top, and it can rise and it'll be nice and smooth. So I just want to knead this for a little bit. I mean, it's pretty much, it's done really. You just want to bring it together into a ball, like so, and you can see that it's a nice smooth surface. You just want to dust off any excess flour. And that is pretty much it. So this is gonna go into a bowl, just like that. A couple tablespoons, that's all. And what I like to do is start from the bottom and then flip it on over so that the whole thing is nice and smooth. Look at how beautiful that is. It's so soft, and you can feel that it's gonna make a really good cinnamon roll. So I'm gonna cover this with some plastic wrap, stick it into my microwave that's turned off. That is just going to help it rise, and then we can make our cinnamon rolls. And I'm really excited. So I am just putting a little bit more flour on my working surface because our dough has risen beautifully. For me, that took about an hour, and that's with the rapid rise yeast. If you have the not rapid rise, like the traditional yeast, it may take an hour and a half to up to 2 hours. You're just looking for it to double in size. And look at the gorgeous dough. I'm so happy with it. It's smooth. You can see that there are bubbles forming, and it is ready to go. I'm just gonna invert this onto my floured work surface. And I'm gonna add a little bit more flour there. And then we want to roll this out about 13 by 18 inches. And the reason it's important to know how big to roll out your dough is because that's gonna keep the thickness the same. And you don't want it to be too thin, you want it to still have a good amount of thickness to it. So by doing that, it'll achieve the same texture that mine does. So I'm just going to roll this out, and you can see just how beautifully, it is just like soft, pillowy, heavenly. Roll it out into a rectangle as best as you can. And if it's not a rectangle, it's no big deal. A lot of people cut off the ends because they're a little bit odd looking. I keep them. I'm not trying to throw away this beautiful dough, okay? I don't know about you, but I just want to get it into a rectangle as best as I can, and I'll show you what that looks like in comparison to a 9 by 13 baking dish. So the dough is rolled out into a rectangle. It's not a perfect rectangle, but again, that's fine. So this is a traditional 9 by 13 pan. So I would say this is about 15 by 13-ish, 15 by maybe 14. And taking the long side, we're gonna be spreading the center of the cinnamon roll on here, and then we're gonna take the long side and roll it before we cut it and put it in our baking dish. So let me show you what goes in the filling. So I have here some samneh. Now I have a video on samneh, and samneh is just ghee. And so basically clarified butter, where we take the milk solids out of butter. And we add a spice to it called samneh. To me, it doesn't taste like baklava unless it has this. If you don't have it, if you don't want to get it, you can totally use just regular melted butter, the same quantity, but it's gonna differ in flavor slightly. It won't be a crazy difference. It's still gonna taste like a baklava cinnamon roll, but this is really what gives it that traditional baklava taste. And I think it's essential here, if you can get your hands on it. So I have the samneh, it's room temperature, melted-ish, a little bit of brown sugar, and a little bit of sugar. Not a little bit, a lot of sugar and a little bit of brown sugar. I also want a bit of cinnamon, even though I don't put cinnamon in my baklava. It's a baklava cinnamon roll, and I felt like it needed it. I felt like without it, it was missing something. So just about a tablespoon, and I think it really benefits from a little bit of salt as well. As odd as that sounds, it really helps balance things out, and I think it's delicious here. If you find that I'm out of breath, it's because I'm 36 weeks pregnant. Ta-da! So just work with me. So I'm just gonna mix this all up, and then we're gonna spread it over our dough as gently as possible. So now I take the filling and I just disperse it evenly throughout the dough, and this is gonna help me spread it very evenly as well, because you want it to be pretty much corner to corner. And it doesn't look like it's gonna cover the whole surface, but it will. But so if you have an offset spatula, that would be really helpful here. I don't, so I'm just using the back of a spoon. And honestly, sometimes I go in with my hands because it's just a lot easier. I mean, you can see it's just, the spoon does not do as good of a job. My fingers, my hands, I just feel like I can really spread it out evenly. So I am going to get in here, spread it all out from corner to corner, and then, of course, we need the walnuts. It would not be a baklava cinnamon roll without the walnuts, or whatever kind of, you can use pecans here if you want to. So once that's all spread out, then we will pat all of these crushed walnuts on. Okay, so you can see that the butter and sugar mixture is pretty much all the way. I do leave a little bit on the edge, but however you want. I just feel like if I do it this way, it's less likely for the filling to spill out while I'm rolling it. So I am just spreading out all my crushed walnuts, and I am going to be patting it down so that it adheres to the melted butter and the sugar. Then we're gonna cut them up and add them to our 9x13 baking dish. They're gonna have to rise again, just so that they get nice and beautiful and puffy, and it's gonna make for a really soft cinnamon roll, because that's what we all love. So gently with your hands, spread it out to the edge of the butter mixture, all the walnuts, and again, you can use cashews, you can use pecans, you can use whatever you want, and you can also use this dough to make traditional cinnamon rolls, in which case you would just use regular butter, brown sugar, a little bit of sugar, and lots of cinnamon. So however you want, but this dough is great for all of it because I have done it for all of it. So I'm just gently patting it down, making sure it adheres. And then, I mean, look at this. This is like, looks like a pizza that I just want to dig into right now. So then from the long side, you want to make sure that you're starting from the long side. That way it gives you more cinnamon rolls. You're just going to carefully roll it. And the first little roll is the most finicky, I would say. After that, you can just see, I just tucked it in with my fingers, and you want to make sure that the first roll is pretty tight, because that's kind of going to lead the way for the rest of the time when you're rolling it. So from then, I just take my hand and I gently roll it like this until you get all the way to the other end. And if you find that it's starting to loosen, keep tucking it in, because you want it to be a tight roll. You don't want it to be loose, otherwise it'll fall apart. And just keep gently going at it. Any little bits that fall off, we can add them right back into the roll, and I will show you how I do that. But from here, I'm gonna try and slide it towards me. From here, you want to take it and take the ends and fold them over like this. And at that point, you can stick any little scraggly pieces in. And the dough kind of just sticks on itself. You just want to flip it over like this so that the crease is at the bottom. Then you can kind of form it into a nice and neat log. And then taking a serrated knife, I like to use a serrated knife, I just find that it's better. A lot of people use unflavored and unwaxed floss, but to me, I don't know, you have to get under it and then cross it over. Supposedly doing it that way gives for a really clean cut, but I really think that the serrated knife does the job just fine, and I like being able to see where I'm cutting it instead of getting underneath it and messing with it too much. So I want to cut this into 12 rolls. So I start by cutting it in half as evenly as possible and gently, gently cut down. And it should not be difficult. So then from here, you want to cut each of these halves in half. So you're left with 4 pieces, and each of these 4 need to be cut into 3. Now you have 12 beautiful rolls, and I take my 9x13, and I'm just going to place them. So the end pieces, you want to have the cut side up so that you can see the cinnamon roll and the beautiful design. But look at how beautiful that swirl is. Just check it out. I'm so in love with this. Beautiful. So these just get lined up like so on a lightly greased baking dish. And some of the walnuts may fall out along the way. That's okay. You can just stick them back in. And again, the end piece, you want to make sure the cut side is up. So any of these little walnuts that come down, you can stick them in the little holes if there are any parts that look like it's missing some pieces. These are going to rise for me, it'll probably be about 45 minutes. If you have, again, the normal yeast that is not rapid rise, it may take longer, probably another hour to hour and a half. You're looking for them to double in size before you stick them in the oven, but that's really it. The hard part is done. Now it's just a waiting game, so just wait till they rise, double in size, and then we are ready to stick them in the oven. So I let these rise for about 45 minutes, and you can see that they are beautiful. They have pretty much doubled in size, and you can also see that I cut one of them a little bit bigger than the others. That's okay. That might just be mine, you know? You can really see those swirls defined, and I love the way they look. So they're gonna go into an oven at 350 for between 20 and 30 minutes. You want them to be just kind of kissed with golden brown up on top. You don't want them to be super golden because I feel like that takes away from the softness of it. So just keep an eye. Your oven may vary. That's why I say between 20 and 30 minutes. And then once they come out of the oven, we will glaze them with a simple, super simple glaze. So I will see you then. The Baklava cinnamon rolls are out of the oven looking absolutely beautiful. This tall one got a little extra golden brown, but I'm totally fine with that. But look at that, just perfection. We're gonna make a quick glaze to go on top, and all you need is milk and powdered sugar. And really the ratio of this depends on how you like your powdered sugar. If you want it thicker, then just use less milk. If you want it thinner, obviously use more. If you want to add some vanilla in there, whatever. But I tried this with the cream cheese glaze, and it really took away from the baklava flavor, and the tartness just, I don't think it complemented the dish well. So that's why I wanted something that almost was like atten or simple syrup, but it still needed to be a glaze. So powdered sugar and milk really does the trick here. I just take a tablespoon at a time, or I do maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons to start with, and then I just start whisking it until I get my desired consistency. I'm gonna be adding a little bit more because I do want to thin this out. I'm gonna add another 2 tablespoons and mix it and see what that turns out like. So this is the consistency that I like my icing. But again, if you want more, if you want less, I prefer it to be not so tooth-achingly sweet, but this to me is perfect. And actually if you want, you can do like a tablespoon on each and just douse them each in the glaze. And as they sit, it will start to soak in the icing, and it is just heavenly. And then after I pour all the glaze on, I just add some crushed pistachios just to really give it that baklava vibe, because that's what I like to do with my baklava. And we are ready to eat. And I kind of got a little ahead of myself. I've already sort of cut around this middle one here, just so you can really see how soft and luscious they are on the inside. Do you see how soft that dough is? Look at this. Oh man, just look at that. This is heaven, and I'm missing a little bit of a piece right here. Can't have that. This is soft and pillowy. You can see all the layers of the baklava, and I am ready. Hold on. That bite wasn't. This is what I want. The dough is soft. It's not super sweet. It has the taste of the baklava from the walnuts, from the samneh, from the very simple syrup-ish icing that we added on. Heavenly. And don't forget, you can, like I said, you can make this into regular cinnamon rolls, but if you have walnuts, why not? I want you to just come in and see these layers. Look at the inside of that. Just how delicious does that look? And you know that middle part, that like middle bite, just you wait. I hope you guys give these a try. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this one, and I'm so excited to finally have it ready for you guys. And hopefully you guys make it for Thanksgiving, or even for Christmas, or during the holiday season at some point. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and share pictures with me when you do recreate my recipes, because I love seeing them. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Bite.